welcome to Furious Driving, and today we're going to take a break from engines and welding and look at one of the cars we're actually using on a semi-day-to-day basis. Yes, the Alfa Romeo. I don't know if you noticed or not, but a couple of weeks ago there was a bit of a problem with petrol supply and it seemed to be a little bit awkward to buy diesel and things. Don't know if it came across and you noticed it or not, but over here it did kind of affect things, and it turned out for a few days the only car I had to use was this Alfa because it was the only one with a full tank of fuel. And that brought home the fact that one serious deficiency is with this car, and that is the fact the radio is absolutely cack. So today we're going to do a little bit of advanced updating on this car, and this was a very good Alpine once upon a time, but these days it doesn't do anything apart from play the radio, and it doesn't even do that very well. So I'm going to put something a bit more in clever with this thing, an Atoto with Android Auto and lots of Bluetoothy stuff and internety things, make this car a bit more advanced and futuristic. Now this is the installation as it currently stands in the 145. This is a sort of fairly period-ish correct Alpine, which is a very decent, even with MP3 playback from your CDs, head unit. It's a little bit scruffy these days, and one thing I have found is that the aerial connection on the back of this is really dicey, so you lose signal all the time. You really struggle even to listen to the main stations like Radio 1 and Radio 2. You can't do anything. And the other thing is, of course, that it's just held in by luck and art. It's resting mostly on the corners of its cage and this little cubby storage thing here. James from the Alfa Owners Club actually sent me this spare bracket which is meant to sit in here, screwed onto some bits of plastic which are no longer there. And that should be supporting both that and that little cubby hole, but obviously with no brackets down here I can't do a thing with it, so it's just flapping around in the breeze, a heavy thing right up at the top of this open space. It can't go in the bottom because we've got this little ECU module, we've got these airbag cables which obviously we need to be careful not to damage when we're in there, and so yeah, we've got an awkward situation. These are the standard they're called ISO DIN or whatever cables. This is the antenna which goes into one of these hateful kind of connections here, which can just wobble off the back of the radio pretty much 15 seconds after you install it back in the dashboard. And all the time the radio is floating around in there, it flobbles out even more. Right, so the plan today, first of all, lose that hateful thing, figure out some way of connecting. Well, this is only flimsy plastic back here, so in here there's not a lot to connect anything to. There's a metal bar back here, there's just plastic sides of the centre console, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to rest stuff on. There's a screw bolt thingy just here as well, which is maybe something usable, I don't know. But the plan here is to try and mount a doubled-in cage in here somehow, with luck or a lack of judgment, more than likely. So it's not going to cut into these airbag lights and make the car dangerous. Meanwhile, at the front of the car, last time we featured this car, it was all talking about the earth connections and the fact that one of the headlights still wasn't working. And lots of people said, did I try changing the headlight bulb from that light to that light? Yes, of course I did. But what I did find though was if you connected just a basic earth wire from any metal point in the car to the back of that light, it came on. So the earth is still bad on that dipped headlight. Incidentally, the other thing I found is the earth appears to be bad on the horn as well, because that needs an earth found on it as well. So maybe if we get the radio done quickly, then we'll look at that earth issue under the bonnet as well. Right, so having had a good old look around in here, there is literally nothing that you can physically attach this inner cage to inside here. There's just no architecture, no structure whatsoever remaining. I don't know what, if it was purely just that one bar in there originally, but there's nothing now. So all I can do now is put this doubled-in cage in just here, feed the wires through, and because we're high enough up and it's fairly short body on this thing, we should be able to clear this airbag box in the back, and we've got room for the cables. There's literally nothing back there, and yeah, and just use the tabs inside here to try and clamp it super duper tight into the side of here, and then hopefully friction and gravity will do most of it. And there doesn't seem to be an off-the-shelf doubled-in bezel to go around here either. If I find or make some kind of plastic strip that will sit in just here, this unfortunately is too deep to fit in there and give any support, but if I can find a piece of plastic to just sit on top of here and rest under there, that will give some vertical support in the long run. And then I can find or adapt some other textured plastic bezel from another car and make it fit in here once I've got the thing fitted in there and I know what size I'm working towards. Incidentally, there are some older cables back in here from previous audio installations. There's a Sony CD changer cable, which I don't need anymore, but there are cables to a subwoofer, which is also not there, but the cables still are. So maybe I'll just hook up the sub cables to the back of this thing. So if I ever feel like putting a subwoofer in this car and going a bit old school, fast car, max power, I can have that option. Right, so I've been in there and I've bent back as many tags as I possibly can. There's not a lot to make contact with, but they are gripping it quite tightly, so it'll do for the initial install. And then when I've got it in there, I can go and measure up a bit of, I don't find a sheet of plastic or some wood just to sit in this slot here, and I can get that all tidied up nicely. But in the meantime, that will do for fitting. And the most important thing is that this is not sliding back. There's a relatively sharp edge on the back of there. It's not sliding into the airbag cables down there. So that's all good. Now, before we go any further, I will quickly hook up the radio to make sure all actually works. There's a lot of wires that come with this thing. This is, hang on. This is a front camera input, so we can have reversing cameras, parking cameras on this thing. I don't think I need to go quite that far with this particular vehicle. This is a FACRA. It's got a FACRA aerial, like on the Mini, which is something I've only encountered for the first time with that. Now, I could run this somewhere under the dashboard and put this, but I don't really want to be taking the car apart any more than I already have. So I have been and ordered a FACRA adapter, so I can just run regular FM through that. Something I've noticed is that there's kind of a plastic lug here where this old bracket used to connect to. So I'm going to have a quick go at drilling a hole in there, seeing if I can screw a very tiny little screw in there either side, and that will hold this cage in about the right place with some luck. Again, there's just tons of space behind here. There's nothing behind it between here and the outside edge. It's just empty space and thin plastic. Likewise, there's nothing beneath it apart from the airbag cabling, and there's nothing above it at all. There's just, well, a space until you hit the bottom of this. So there's just really no way of attaching things anywhere inside this area. I don't know how it was all supposed to fit together. It's just luck, really, they held it together with. And the first ones I used were actually too little. The heads went straight through the side of this hole, so it didn't do anything at all. But these slightly shorter ones, but with a fatter head, did do the tricks. It's now actually, well, I say sturdy, but it's held in well enough that I can probably manhandle the head unit into this bracket. And it is installed. It's actually feeling fairly sturdy in there, which is slightly annoying because I didn't need the DVR connection because I'm not connecting one of those. There is a GPS antenna which I didn't connect, and that would have been quite handy. And there is a microphone for the Bluetooth phone system, which also would have been quite handy because this now doesn't look very easy to take out again. And that's not good. We have got the FM radio, which annoyingly is still only playing crackles, which does suggest that it's actually not the radio at fault, but perhaps the aerial up here on the roof. But I did try this windscreen aerial that came with the thing as well, also a FACRA connection. Can't read that. Oh, it's a Wi-Fi and oh, bum. I think I've plugged the radio aerial into the Wi-Fi antenna. That's why I'm not getting very good signal from the phone, and also I'm not getting any signal on the radio. Oh, I need to take this thing out again. It's too complicated for the likes of me. I've got to say, this isn't the most dignified way of doing things, but luckily there is a panel on the side of the centre console, which I hadn't put back yet, which means I can get my hand in there and extricate this poor radio again, and then do all the proper connections I'm meant to be doing. Oh, just trying to break anything. Okay, in the interest of transparency and honesty, I should take a moment to tell you this is not a sponsored video, but Atoto's press office did actually send this through as a demonstration unit to see what I thought of it. So this will be my honest opinion of it. They've not paid me to say anything, just to plug it in, have a go, see what I think. I should also say that I spent precisely 0 seconds reading the installation instructions, so when I mess this up, that's on me, not on them. I probably shouldn't be admitting to this, but that just down there, the purple one, that's a GPS antenna, which is also a FACRA connection. The green FACRA aerial antenna I've plugged into, that's Wi-Fi. Yeah, I didn't need to plug that in there. Underneath that there's an actual radio antenna I didn't notice because I was looking at the FACRA thingy, making a mistake. So I'm going to plug the Wi-Fi antenna in, plug the GPS in, and also the microphone for the Bluetooth. So many wires to go wrong with. Well, that's hilarious. I've plugged the radio aerial in without using any kind of adapters into the right socket, and guess what? I've now got Radio 1 playing quite happily. Obviously turned off because that's copyright music, etc. Ho-hum. Something I really like about the supplied Wi-Fi and GPS antennas is that the aerials come out of the plug on a swivel. So if they get snagged around and as it moves around inside the car, that has got a bit of flexibility. It's not going to break off when you try and install it, which is actually really rather useful. Now, because the Wi-Fi signal, I'm not too worried about the distance on. It's only going to really go from the phone, which will be in the door pocket or my actual pocket. It doesn't need to be very long. I'll hide that up behind the dashboard on the passenger side. Likewise, the GPS. Ideally, you should be running it all the way up like a post into the ceiling, but I don't want to be disturbing the plastics anymore. So again, I'll tuck that up underneath the dashboard, up behind the glove box, so that can all live down there. Finally, I'll just find a home for the microphone, which I'm not quite sure what to do with, because it's a bit of a big... The microphone is actually a bit of a big bulky thing. Maybe I'll clip it down here by my knee or something, or up underneath the steering column, so it's kind of unobtrusive. I'll just run it down where I've not put this panel in for the moment, just so I've got it plugged in and I can work that out actually later on. There we are, we're now reconnected with a functioning radio. I can scan through frequencies. Oh, hang on, push and hold to get the next frequency, find something else. Please. That appears to be the Star Wars theme, but obviously I can't play it because that's copyright music as well. So anyway, I can program all these, hit the home button, and I've basically got an Android device here in the car. This is a little bit confusing because I am 100% Apple all the way. MacBook, iMac, iPad, iPhone, so that's going to be a little bit confusing, but I have got a Google account, so I can use Google Maps. We've got the Google Play Store, we've got YouTube, all kinds of other stuff we can install on here. So basically I've got a mobile device in the car now, so we can do all kinds of stuff. If I want to do a GPS speedometer, a GPS 0 to 60 device, I can download those kind of things on here. If I'm out with Mrs. Furious and she's gone to yet another canoe shop to look at kayaks and things yet again, she's not into shoes or clothes or anything like that at all, but show her a canoe and she'll be gone for hours. Oh look, a new, I don't know, some kind of paddle or flotation device, lost for the day. So when I'm sat in the car park, I can sit on here, have a little bit of YouTube, I can do a bit of catching up on things that are going on. Oh, it's quite a good channel, I think, so, you know, I could catch up on this guy. He looks quite interesting. I reckon he's worth a subscribe. This is great because this car, I know some people don't like non-purity when it comes to audio installs and that kind of stuff, but the thing is I use these cars all the time, and especially this last month or so when this car actually became my main car for like 2 weeks, and having a really shonky radio that didn't play, so I was having to sort of play navigation and radio off my phone while it was clamped to the windscreen, did not make for happy times, and it really did mean I wanted to get something that was okay. It's a little bit modern for this car, but once I've got a bezel around that, you won't notice that. Then I've got a sat-nav in here. A lot of what I do with this car is take it to shows and things, so I can find my way to shows anywhere around the country. I can find my way to shoots, even if I'm using it for work, which does happen from time to time. So this is all good. I've got proper working FM. If I want to link my phone up and play music through the phone, I can do that. If I could find some kind of mega discreet camera I could hide maybe in like a number plate surround or something, I could put a reversing camera on this thing, but to be honest, it's a pretty tiny car, so I don't really need that. However, I do park this car. Let me just show you how I park this car. This is actually quite badly parked for this car. Normally, its wheel is on the far left edge in this picture of that paving slab, which means this bumper is about that far from this wall, and that sticky out bit of window is about that far from this this corner of the car. So having a reversing camera might actually not be such a bad thing on this. What would be more useful, in fact, would be a camera hidden somewhere in this area of the car that looked down on here. Something like one of those bird's eye view camera things that modern cars seem to have. So what do you guys think? Are you angry I've installed something as modern as that in this car? Or are you impressed that I've got some incredible new technology in here instead? This also has a space for a SIM card, so if I get a pay-as-you-go data card, I wouldn't even need to have this thing paired up to my phone, but as it goes I have got it paired on a hotspot, so I think I've got either unlimited or so much data that it's insane, and I would never use it. I mean, to be honest, normally when I'm in the car, my son has got this hotspot connected up so he can use his devices in the car anyway, so adding one more device, using a bit of navigation perhaps, is no biggie. So I'm really impressed with this. So we've got maps, there we go, Google Maps. If I want to type in, I want to go to John O'Groats, directions, London Eye to John O'Groats, there we go. I've not got a polarizer on this lens, I broke it, whoops. That's a mere 12 hours 22-minute drive, and off I go. The Alfa will be ready for it. This is a good car. There are toll roads involved though, taking the M6. I'll take a non-toll route, I think. 12 hours 29, save 7 minutes, but also about £8. So yeah, I'll go that way. Let's go. Of course I would have to pay the ULEZ and congestion charge if I was heading off in this particular car. There's one more cable I forgot to connect. I saw through the packaging this one said USB DVR. I didn't want to connect any kind of digital video recorder. What I did want to connect though was the phone link, so I can connect my phone for CarPlay. This has got CarPlay in it. Ah! Oh, there we go. CarPlay. The thing has got CarPlay on it. Finish setting up CarPlay. Yes, please. Allow. There we go. So I'm straight into Audible. Oh my god, this is incredible. I've got Audible on. So yeah, my phone, my Alfa, my 21-year-old Alfa Romeo now has CarPlay in it. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. From the one point of view, it's very exciting because I no longer have to drive around with that open in order to have a little USB charger thing plugged into the lighter. But more excitingly, I've actually got CarPlay. So I've got controls for the radio itself, or I can go back into CarPlay. Oh, how to go back into CarPlay? I don't know. Oh, I need to set it as a favourite on the home screen. That's pretty quite important. I'll figure that out in a minute. Oh, I'm very excited now. Oh, this is so good. You know what, I really should get more focused on unpacking boxes properly rather than being excited about the main event. There's a bezel that comes with the thing. I thought there probably should be. There are also a couple of screen protectors which I probably ought to think about. That's frosted, and that one is HD. I'll go with the HD one, I think. But I will put this bezel on quickly because that'll make it look an awful lot smarter. I'm an idiot sometimes. Guess what? This thing is even textured, just like the car. That's a lucky coincidence, I suppose. Well, so far I've been pretty impressed with everything about this Atoto, except for this bezel, which unfortunately just does not want to clip on at all. I'm probably doing it wrong, but yeah, it just doesn't quite go around. So, and as it doesn't cover this bottom area anyway, I'm not too fussed, so I'm going to try and find a bigger bezel from something else. And moments later, you will not receive notifications while you're driving, I've now got the car or the radio reinstalled with the not very good bezel around it. So yeah, I've got everything I want on CarPlay. So I've got maps, I've got my phone. If I need to receive a phone call while I'm in the car, it'll read text messages to me if I'm in a traffic jam. I can navigate through maps. I've got audio books, I've got Audible, Google Maps if I want to do that, BBC Sounds if I want to listen to the radio that way. Access to all the usual apps that you can do through CarPlay. This is amazing. I can even make Zoom calls in the car if I really, really want to. But don't think I will do that. Oh, Ringo, I didn't know I had an app for that. So if I'm parking someplace using one of those hateful car parking apps, I can actually use that from the comfort of the car. That's really good. So as you know, I'm not a huge fan of having everything as a touch screen with no physical buttons, and in this case we have got touch buttons for volume and touch buttons for the home, also for the power, but I doubt you'll be touching the power button when you're driving, and thankfully it's only 2 buttons here which you have got to find without being able to touch that you need to look down for. In terms of other things, once you're in the radio and you've programmed your presets, these are pretty big areas to be touching, so you can fumble down. Even with fumbly fingers like me, you can find where you're going with these big buttons. And of course, if you're using it on CarPlay, chances are you'll be... Okay, I've just discovered there are 2 home pages, so you can have 2 different setups. Home page with your audio player, and oh my god, it's a graphic equalizer. There's a lot of features on this which take me a while to find. I wonder what the steering wheel button did. If I had steering wheel controls, I could be connecting these different functions to the steering wheel controls and actually make it so you didn't have to use the screen at all. You could be using the buttons on the steering wheel. However, this is an older car with no steering wheel controls, which does mean everything is forced back down here onto the screen. But I hadn't realised there was like 3 different customisable home pages. As I was saying, most of the time you will be using the CarPlay settings, so you might just start up an Audible book, get in the car, drive off, or have the nav playing the entire time and never touch it again. Overall, I am very impressed with this. I'll let you know how I get on when I've driven a few more miles with it in the car. And if you like to look at this thing, I'll put a link in the description below, because I know people will frequently ask me where I get these things from, and I will save you the bother of asking in the comments. Link in the description. Right, now let's look at the slightly more important things of why my headlight and horn don't work. So, if we clamp onto an earth just there, touch onto the earth on the back of the light, you see the headlight comes on, which means we've got no earth coming out of there. Which means I need to find some way of connecting wherever this connector comes out here, which is a very confusing mass of wires, and plug it into an earth point somewhere. And what I'm looking for there, I think, is a light brown wire, which vanishes completely. Something else I noticed the other day is I've managed to pick up a stone chip here in the bottom of this lamp unit, which is very new and very annoying. These lights are quite rare and not cheap. Right, I cannot even find where that earth lead comes out of the loom on the back of the headlights and where it's going to go to. So I'm going to take a slightly different route for the time being. I'm going to take the back of this lamp off, find a bit of black wire, because that's earth coloured, find some wire cutters, oops, lazy, probably some strippers as well if I can find them in there. Make a hole in the back of here and run an earth to a solid point elsewhere in the car, just as a temporary fix. Okay, this is fed very tightly through there. I will put some silicone on that once it's all installed. That is a little spade connector on the back of the light fitting. If I touch this on this good earth point, what do you know, the headlight starts working again. This will be a good workaround for the time being. Right, so it wasn't anywhere obvious I could hook up an earth point in this corner of the engine bay without drilling a new hole. So what I did was unpicked one of these previous repaired wires down to the earth point, jacked that the headlight into that, and now I've got that into the same bit of messy loom, which thankfully I hadn't bound up into any kind of nice cohesive knot messiness just yet. And for a quick test, we have a functioning headlight now on both sides of the car. What a novelty. I will go and do something very similar with the horn when I eventually work out where it lives in the car. I know it's somewhere in the front, but not exactly. If anyone knows precisely where the location of the horn is, then do write it in the comments. It'll save me spending a lot of time going through the manual, which will be massively unhelpful, as I know from looking in previous things in the manual. Well, considering I was going to be childminding this morning, this has been actually a pretty productive day. So I'm really happy this car now has gone straight into the 21st century. It's another car with a more advanced radio system than my everyday Mercedes W204, S204 technically. It's now got CarPlay in this thing, which is astonishing. But it's actual sat-nav as well, so I am absolutely stoked. I've gone from a radio that barely got Radio 1 when you're next to the transmitter to the latest, greatest, most impressive things you can possibly have, and I've got fully functioning headlights again, which is, I can't tell you what a relief that is. I've been driving this in the dark with one headlight, which is, because they're not both connected, they're aimed at the floor, the adjuster hasn't been working. So yeah, this would be a massive, massive update in safety as well as comfort. So a good day all round, really. So thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, as always, like and subscribe. If you haven't enjoyed it, then tough, don't comment. I don't want to know. If you want to get one of these radios, they're over in Amazon, so head over there. I'm quite impressed with this. Right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.